Welcome to Daily Conversation. This is Mr. K.
This is Eric.
Yeah, today is the 21st of December 2021, and the time now is 6:17 a.m. Well, today our topic is what's the main cause of unhappiness? Right, so before we get started, please click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Alright, so here we go. Yeah, so today we talk about the main cause, which make us feel unhappy. And yeah, I come up with one uh, thinking, and actually this is coming from one of the video in TED Talk, and then yeah, I quite agree with using expectation to talk about happiness. Yeah, for that one, basically the idea is people we all have our own expectation, um, and then we also can see what is the result in the reality. So every time we have expectation, but doesn't mean that in the reality we do what we expect. We are able to achieve that result. And when the expectation is greater than the reality, then we have a gap here, and this gap causes unhappiness. Also, I remember a few examples in the video, which is like uh, sometimes you can see people get the silver medal, and also people get the bronze medal. Uh, the 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 silver medalist is actually performed better than the bronze medalist, but it doesn't mean that the silver medalist must always be happier than the bronze medalist, because these two guys they may have different expectation, and for the for the silver medalist maybe they expect to get the gold medal, and then but they only get the silver. So in that case, their expectation is actually greater than the reality. However, and it could also be the case like the bronze medalist. Maybe he just expect to get a medal, and in that case, he achieved it, and then it kind of like he nearly uh, get nothing, but at the end he still get the bronze medal. So in that case, the expectation, their reality hit their expectation. So it could be the case like the bronze medalist is happier than the silver. Yeah, but this is not always. This is just case by case. Yeah, and then for this expectation, it is influenced by a few things. For example, after we see other people, and then we will have uh, the comparison, and then uh, this influence our expectation, and then because of we feel we are inferior, we are not so good enough, and then we increase our expectation, and then in the reality, if we couldn't improve as our expected, then we also feel unhappy. Uh, yeah, for this one, I think one of the example is like nowadays the social media, the social networking platform like Instagram. There's so many beautiful pictures, and then people's always post something that they are proud of. Yeah, maybe it's like uh, they have a good body. Maybe they're so fit, and or some people they go on holiday, and then go to some places, beautiful places, and uh, yeah, all of those things is something good. Of course, some people share something which is maybe a normal things, and then or maybe uh, the things that is not so good, or maybe it is something like they fail to do something. But mostly, uh, all the good things will get more likes, and then uh, therefore what we see often is those good things. So in that case, it also uh, it also intensify the comparison of the user, and then after we have the comparison, maybe it affects our expectation. Yeah, we thought that this is something like the average, so we much if we didn't get uh, if we didn't um, do that as well, and then it is like we are inferior. Yeah, so I think the main cause here I can think of is using this concept, which is expectation, and uh, uh, to compare whether expectation is greater than reality, and then for this concept, I come up with some implication, and the first implication is taking action is important because we all have our expectation, and then we expect to achieve something, but this expectation is just in the thinking. Yeah, it is just the thoughts, and if we didn't take any action, then our reality may may not improve, and then but our expectation is still there. So if we don't take action, maybe after that we will blame ourselves, and then create more unhappy. Yeah, and also yeah, still in the first point, taking action, and at the same time we still need to like enjoy the process of improving, and then only when we enjoy the process, then we may be able to feel happy. Yeah, because if our focus is always on the result, then maybe most of the time we won't be happy. We won't be happy. Yeah, we most of the time we spend on achieving some result. Yeah, this is the first, and the second implication I can think of is to figure out your goal, your objective, your own value. Yeah, this one is important because if we don't have these kind of things, and then uh, in our mind we have too much things with which we want. For example, we want to uh, earn a lot of money. We want to become rich. We want to become healthy. We want to spend more time to do our own thing. And then it seems like this is that there are too many. And then if we don't figure out our goal, our objective, our value, then uh, it seems like we will have expectation. We pay will pay our attention on too many things, and then there are many comparison, and at the end you don't know what you are uh, compare, and then uh, the reality greater than your expectation, because you didn't focus on which part you want to do, and then everything could be something that make you unhappy. Yeah, so these are my sharing today.
So your key point is actually about the reality and expectations, and if our expectation is too high and our reality cannot keep up, then
Mm.
we will experience depression or experience happiness. Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
So this is the key point. And why your first implication is to take action and mm,
Yeah, because if we don't take action, the expectation is still there, and then our reality uh, must not mustn't be improved. Yeah, if we don't do anything, it won't improve. so the gap could be greater, and it's always there. And maybe after that, the cause of unhappiness could be other reason. For example, you blame yourself. You feel like you, you um you don't think you are doing the things that you can't give yourself kind of like yeah, maybe people just blame themselves for not working hard, and those kind of feeling will also affect our happiness.
Mm, yeah. Uh, but even though you take actions, can you keep up with your expectation in short term, medium, and long term?
Yeah, it is still difficult. So I think also just I also mentioned to try to enjoy the process and compare with yourself. Like for example, compare with you yourself a few months ago or a few weeks ago. Uh, if you feel the improvement, then try to adjust your expectation a little bit.
Okay. And then your second point, your second implication is uh kind of like weighing your value, weighing your what you want, and then understand what you really want, and then focus on those things
Mm,
that you understand uh what you are sacrificing. You understand what you aim for.
yeah,
That so it's kind of like working around the expectation. Try
yeah.
to try to narrow or
Mm.
close your expectation in one particular area, and uh don't expect too much on other area. Is it something like that?
Yeah, but not only one. Maybe it could be a few, but not inst we have some focus maybe on a few aspect, but not every.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm. So do you have expectation, and what is the reality? Do you face you still have the gaps, and whether the gap is become uh kind of like uh become wide or become narrow, you become small. Sorry, I mean the gaps become smaller or become bigger. Mm. For example, you want to learn English, you
Mm,
want of your expectation or goal is to speak like a native speakers, right?
mm, yeah.
And yeah, so this is your expectation. And how about the reality? How,
The reality, of course, there is a big gap here, but I try to focus on uh, the process, and then something like enjoy it, and then uh, uh, you just don't expect on the result, yeah, the final result that you are expecting.
don't you don't expect the result, you don't expect the final result, but you aim for the result. This is
Yeah,
why,
it
yeah,
is like
this is something to
a
talk.
little by a little, something
Mm,
like that. Let's say if you want to uh if you want to um, let's say you want to get a driving license, and then yeah, for driving we have a few parts. Then in the
uh,
process, maybe you can put your expectation, your focus on some small parts, and then achieve one by one.
I understand, but this is not like driving a car because it's more difficult than driving a car. For example, you want to achieve financial freedoms, you want to speak like a native. This is more than that. This is more difficult than driving a car. Most of
Mm,
people can drive. Most of people, which is non-native speakers, couldn't speak like native speakers. This is something that you must aware. So
mm,
you cannot use example which is very easy to achieve, and then you use the example to explain. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
if them I means they may not the same thing. Yeah, so
Mm.
it may not. I didn't say it must not. So it may not uh, be the appropriate analogy.
Mm. Yeah, I know. For driving, because at the end, most of the people achieve what they want. They get a license. They can drive uh, successfully. But for my goal, maybe yeah, the final goal is kind of very difficult. And yeah, so yeah, I was just like wanted to say I even though I have this in my mind, but I try to put my attention on uh, uh, improving, and then I may not get the final goal, but try to enjoy the process of improving.
Hmm. Yeah. But it seems dumb, is it? Because you aim for something, but you need to check yourself that you the result is not really important. You need to focus on the progress. Yeah, of course. I know the process and the progress is important, and also is something that we need to focus on. But it seems like the goal is unimportant.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I learned in Atomic Habit is not like this. It's actually you need to have a goal. Yeah, you need to have a goal, and then of course you need to focus on your progress, and you need to you need to focus on your process. You need to find out how to improve, how to get how to get from your starting point to the end point. You need to focus on your process
Hmm.
so that you only you aware that, and only you really pay attention to the process, you can eventually achieve the goal. You can eventually bring the bring yourself from the start point to your destination, to the end point. So the key point here is not forget about your goal. Yeah,
Hmm.
the key point is ask you is require you to focus on the process so you can achieve the goal.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so we need to come from the identity based projects rather than the goal based approaches. Yeah, if you use a goal based approaches, you keep looking at the goal, you keep looking at the goal, and then maybe once you achieve, and then you think, yeah, everything is done. But this is not the thing. Yeah, this is not something we should do, because our life is a pro is a long process, it's a long progress,
Hmm.
and there's no end in our life.
Yeah.
Only we set self. Yeah. So you need to focus on you need to use the identity based approaches. You need to become the person you want to be. Yeah, you want to become yourself more. You want to become the person's the ima- the imag the imaginated you. Yeah. So this is I don't think this is a lower level expectations. I want to read 100 book compared to I want to really become a reader. I I want to quit smoking.
Hmm.
I want to be non-smokers.
Hmm.
I want to do exercise 3 times a week, each time 45 minutes, compared to I want to become an athlete.
Hmm.
I'm the person who enjoy exercising. So the expectations, uh, uh, I think expectation you give yourself, the which maybe I can say the target you set to yourself, the level. This is on a different level. The first goal base is just a task, but
mm,
the identity base is you want to become the type of person. Mm, I
mm,
don't think they're on the same level on the difficulty and also uh, on the expectations. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it may not be something like a low expectation. It can be higher than a goal base.
I don't think it's only may not. I think it must not.
Mm,
Yeah, because you see, this is a very uh thing from logic perspective. You want to read 100 books per year, or maybe you want to read 10 books, 20 books, 50 books per year. You are forcing yourself to read a book. You are a non-reader. You are still not a reader. Mm.
mm,
Become readers. You don't give yourself the restrictions. You don't need to you don't need to force yourself. Oh, I need to read 100 books. I need to read 50 books, 10 books per year. You need to force yourself. You don't need to force yourself, and you can do that automatically.
mm,
Yeah, and also whether setting the goal like this, 10 book, 20 book, 50 book, 100 books, whether it's appropriate is another question. Yeah, because uh in the atomic habit we also know that sometimes we set the we set the target, we set the goal uh uh which couldn't actually give us what we want. Yeah, for example, one of the is the like the progress, I think is at the uh I think it's in the third step. The first is the Q uh Q, then the last is the reward, and then the
mm.
second is
Desire, response.
yeah, is the third is a response. Yeah, so mm, yeah, and one of the example is like uh, we can do something, so we kind of like make ourselves to not not in the motions but in the actions. Yeah, so we are not kind of like preparing, preparing something. Remember remember the example, the experiments, which is one group of the students. They only take the highest quality pictures, only one. They need to pick one. They need to get to one picture, and another group, which is a and they take a lot of picture. Yeah, they take a lot of picture, and then end up the quality groups, they require to take the picture that has the highest quality, but end up with their quality at an average lower than the than the quantity groups. Yeah. So mm, yeah. Uh. So mm, the thing the thing you do is also important. So the way you achieve your goal, or maybe the target you set to yourself, is also important. For example, you say I want to take a highest quality picture. Yeah, so this is their target, and they focus on that, but
Mm,
end up they didn't get a better quality of picture compared to the quantity groups. Yeah, and the
mm,
quantity they can take as many as picture they can, mm, but end up they get a better quality because they learned in the process. they keep improving themselves in the process.
Mm.
Yeah. So whether the goal you set, whether the target you set is really uh, satisfying, maybe your the desire, your kind of like uh, the deep emotions, something like that, whether it actually serves the desire, what you really want from from the goal. Reading 100 books, you want just 6 pages, you want just read the words, or you actually want to acquire the knowledge, acquire information. Yeah. So, mm, yeah.
Yeah.
And and the theory, which is the reality and expectation theory, which you mentioned just now, uh is actually Writons, and I think he is the person who first came out this reality and expectation theory, which is the William James. This is one of the greatest philosophers, and he came out in this theory in the late 1800s. So is
Mm.
two oh, about the happiness and the reality. Mm. And he say that if your reality lives up to your expectations, you experience happiness. If it doesn't, you are depressed. Yeah, so it's kind of like exactly what you mentioned. But actually, after so many decades, and people found that it's actually not true. Why not true? Yeah, why not true? Because expectations, the first is we are human. First thing is we are human. We cannot really restrict our expectation. We cannot really restrict our desire. This is inherently impossible because of the nature, because of the human nature.
Mm.
Yeah. And the second is reality is more important than expectations. And in short term, maybe you expect more and then you get lesser, you will feel unhappy. But in long term, the expectation is actually irrelevant. Your expectation few years ago, your expectation few months ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago is no longer important. It's totally irrelevant. So you try to kind of like using this logic to think in short terms, which is your current stage, you kind of use this theory and then you came out, oh, your expectation couldn't be high. Okay, and then so uh yeah, maybe you still work hard, okay, and you try to keep up with your expectation, but at the same time you lower your expectations. And in long terms, this I mean 5 years later or 10 years later, this current stage of expectation is irrelevant, totally irrelevant to your self-esteem, to your to your uh what is it called? Something I forget. Mm, the Maslow the Maslow hierarchy,
Mm.
the high uh, the s- the second higher is the self-esteem,
Yeah.
and the higher
Self-actualization.
is self-actualization. Yeah, and yeah, and you didn't increase your self-esteem, you didn't increase your self-actualization, you didn't increase your happiness, and also this thing is totally irrelevant. Yeah, the short-term expectation is totally irrelevant to your long-term self-esteem, self-actualizations, and also your happiness. Yeah. So why you need to pay attention on that, and why you why you want to allow the expectation restrict your result, restrict the willingness to keep to to push you more a little bit. Yeah, yeah. And in long term, what is important is the realities. Realities is really important to happiness level, to your self-esteem, and also to your self-actualizations. This is this is the only importance. So that um the main concept here is you need to cope instead of avoid. Yeah, you need to cope instead of avoid. If in your mind, if if your mindset is reality and expectation, you try to balance it,
Mm.
you try to reduce the gaps. In short terms, you can't do anything. You can't do anything to reduce the gaps, except the except lower your expectation. Because in short term, you can't really make the reality up and match to your expectation. It's very very difficult. And if you manage to do that, congratulations. But unfortunately, it's because your expectation is too low. Yeah,
Mm. Yes.
expectation is too low, so it is so easy to achieve. So actually, you need a high level of expectation. You shouldn't satisfy with the with so the easy achieve uh the expectation. Yeah, yeah. So this is the main reason. Yeah, and do high expectation lead to disappointments? No, actually no, because we can track our progress. We can see our improvements. We're not sure whether at this current moment we are happy or not, but we can compare to 6 months ago, we can compare to 3 months ago, before we start the task, before
Mm.
we do the thing, whether we become more fulfilled, whether we uh, uh, become more happy. Yeah, yeah. So this is also the reason why the positive belief is so important. Why we need to become the optimist. Yeah, and why we have some methods to increase our belief, and also why belief is also a key component in the success formula. Yeah, you
Yep.
couldn't lose your belief. Mm. Although at the same time you need to face the reality, but you still can can have the high expectation. You can at the same time have the high expectation. At the same time, you work on the reality. It doesn't mean that you need to reduce the, the expectation in order to feel happier. This is an illusion.
Mm. Yep.
And yeah, one of the quote is come from the Thomas Edison's. There's no substitute for hard work. There's no substitute for hard work. You couldn't use your imagination to try to reduce your expectations, which substitute hard work to feel happier. No, no way. And also, uh, one of the I think is the founder of J.P. Morgan's. He also have once a quote, very very famous quote, which is "I feel my way to success." Yeah. Um. Sorry. I think this is not what he say, but what he say is if you want to increase your success rate, double your failure rate. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is what he said. Yeah. The I feel my way to success is other other people say is yeah, but I forget who say that.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to increase your success rate, double your failure rate. Did you find any expectation reduction at here? No, no.
Mm.
You actually increase the expectation. And okay, for me, and because it's an old topic, and I remember I agree uh, the, this theory. I agree with this theory, and I also remember last conversations for this old topic. You also make the same point. You also make the same theory. I also agree. But after I learned the positive psychology, and now I disagree with this with this theory.
Mm.
And yeah, so the reason I already mentioned just now, and how I think about the main causes of unhappiness. Yeah, first, yeah, and I I keep thinking, and then eventually I came out of framework. But before I came out of the framework, I actually find out, yeah, uh, what will I uh, uh what thing will make me unhappy? Uh, Maybe five years ago, 10 years ago, yeah, what thing will really make me unhappy? And the first thing I think of is the loss of wealth. The wealth here is not only the money. The wealth here can be the time, can be can be your health, be- can be your property, can be a lot of things, can
Mm.
be your ability. Yeah. So can be a lot of things. The wealth can be a lot of things, not just about the money. Yeah. So the first thing is loss of wealth. And the second thing is the cost of doing nothing. If I if I do nothing and then after some time I found that, yeah, actually if I did the thing few years ago, but because of some reason I do nothing. I did nothing. So I think this will be the contribution to unhappiness. So the second is doing nothing.
Mm.
And the third is is kind of like the opposite. Second, which is doing something bad, and the consequence is irreversible and irreparable. Yeah. So the key point is not doing something bad, it's not doing something wrong, but the key point is irreversible and irrecoverable. Yeah. And but not many things. Yeah, but not many wrong things, not many bad things is really irreversible or really irrecoverable. Yeah, not many. Mm. So you need to balance the risk of doing nothing and also doing something maybe too extreme can cause very serious consequences. So
Mm.
there's something that you need to balance. But not many thing is irreversible. Not many thing is irrecoverable. Yeah. So the main focus is still on the cost of doing nothing. Yeah. And then the fourth is the wasting of time. And wasting of time is quite similar. I mean, it's actually the subset of the first one, the loss of wealth.
Mm.
And we are human, and what is scarce to us is actually our time. Our time is the most scarce assets for us. We only we only we only mm, use our time. Actually, we use our time to make decision. And the time, okay. I remember a few months ago I tell you uh about the budgeting and also about if you want to achieve the financial freedoms, and then you need to focus on your spending because spending is a function of everything. Function of saving is a function of your investment. Is also the function of your income, investment income. So it's a function of the initial capital, the capital you need in order to retire. Yeah, so spending is a function of everything in personal finance. And but time is the function of everything. you can say time is a function of spending. Try to imagine you only left 10 years time. How much money you still need in order to retire? Not much. Yeah.
Mm.
But if you still left 50 years, yeah, you have a lot of time. So that you need more money, you need more spending for you to retire. But of course, it's because okay, okay, but it doesn't mean that because of a higher spending, so we choose not to not to live longer, not to live up to another 50 years, and then we let uh, we stay alive 10 years more and then suicide. Yeah, not this. Yeah. But the key point here is you because of the time you want the longer time, and then you want to live longer, so you require higher spending. So that means the opportunity cost of longer time is higher spending. Yeah.
Mm.
But it doesn't mean that you don't want to live longer. You sure want to live longer. You sure want to live healthier,
Yes.
healthier and longer. But in order to provide that, to provide that futures, and you want to retire earlier and live healthier and longer and freer or uh, at least financially freer, and you need to prepare the money, you need to prepare the spending, you need to prepare the wealth. Yeah. So times is a function of spending, and spending is a function of everything in personal finance. Yeah. So you can see how time is so important.
Mm.
And we are human, and we born to this world, and then we economize our times, and we use our times to earn money, to accumulate wealth, to accumulate capitals, uh, leisure, or enjoyment for our leisure. Yeah. So if you waste your time, and if you fail to economize your time, and or maybe after you economize your time and turn it into other wealth, and then you lose the wealth, which is the first point. Yeah. And this is a very critical uh disaster for human, for you. So it will cause unhappiness based on this logic. Yeah. And also the fourth point, which is wasting of time, yeah, is also the same. But it is fail at this fourth point is that you fail to economize your time in a more productive way. Yeah. And then the last one uh is losing self. Yeah, is losing maybe it's losing your meaning, losing yourself. Yeah. And which is something we mentioned uh in yesterday topic.
Mm.
And yeah, so that means you don't know what you are doing, and you are working on a direction that you have no idea why you want to work on. Yeah, so after some time you did sacrifice something. At least you sacrifice your time, because you economize your time to achieve the thing. Uh, Even though it is in the wrong direction, but your opportunity cost is your time. Yeah. And yeah, you fail to figure out what you really want, and then and then you spend a lot of time on the wrong things. Yeah. And after after few years, you will feel unhappy. You experience the unhappiness.
Mm.
Yeah. and and what is the framework here? The framework here is actually the opposite of the happiness. Yeah. So, in positive psychology, the lecturer define happiness is pleasure, which is short-term thing, plus meaning, long-term things. Yeah, and if you look at the unhappiness, you try to do the opposite. So it is it means that unhappiness is actually uh pleasure, or you lose your pleasure and you lose your meaning. You lose yourself, you lose your meaning, or no meaning. Your life has no meaning, your life has no pleasure. Yeah, and then you fail to combine them. You fail to balance them. So it causes unhappiness in long term. Yeah. Yeah. So this is my shame for today.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah. So just now the five point here do related to the short term pleasure. Yeah, your framework of unhappiness, and also related to uh, meaningful, right? Not meaningful, and also at the short term, it didn't give you the pleasure, something like that.
Mm. But I think if you talk about the long term happiness level,
Mm,
uh, yeah, I would say this is more about the meaning. Yeah, of course, we need to balance the meaning and pleasure. Okay, but will you give 50% weight on the pleasure and another 50% weight on the meaning when you pursuing the happiness you want, right?
mm,
Maybe you give like 20% of pleasure, 20% of pleasure, or 30% of pleasure, and the rest you you give to the meaning, and you try to find uh something that's have the meaning, but when you are doing, you also can get the pleasure. So it's a win-win.
mm,
Yeah, so that means you focus on what you want. At the same time, you got the meaning because you are work for the direction. Even expectation very very high, but it doesn't matter in long terms. And then because you work for the meaning, you work for what you want, and at the same time you can enjoy in the process. You are able to enjoy in the process. You got the pleasure.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anything else?
Um. Yeah, I think for the 5 point just now also require us to do something like a self reflection, so that yeah, because for normal people, if you ask them at the current moment whether they are happy or unhappy, um he may not know, right? He may not know. uh, from time to time, maybe he need to do some reflection to compare himself to the past, so that he can know whether he is happy or unhappy. Because I believe that even for people who think they are on the correct direction to happiness, um, at that particular moment, maybe they couldn't be so sure that they are happy.
And also they may rationalize themselves.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
and when they start to rationalize, and maybe they feel less unhappy in short terms, but in long terms they definitely need to face the reality, which they fail to did something. They fail to do something.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing. Yeah. One thing actually, I'm not very sure about uh about your goal on the English. In my humble opinions, and yeah, I also not sure whether my judgment is correct or not.
Mm.
I think if you aim for the native speakers, if you aim for that level, and then maybe I say maybe you are walking on the wrong directions, because no matter how much time you spend on speaking with a non-native, to let yourself in the non-native speakers environments, you can't really cultivate the ability to speak like the native.
Mm. Yeah.
So, uh, time you spend in learning, maybe in copying the native speaker speaking style. Mm, yeah, no matter how much time you spend on watching the video, listening the podcast, uh, you still, I would say, you still couldn't speak like native because they speak fast and they speak fluently.
Mm.
And uh, yeah, mm. So it actually need to change from the internally. So it's not change from it's kind of like change inside. It's not change from outside. You really need to like the deep into the environment. So you need to uh speak with the native speakers very often, and then you can kind of like catch their logic of thinking when using English as a language. So English no longer as your second language, become your primary language.
Mm.
And also the essence of that is totally different if you compare the non-native speakers and native speakers. Mm. You
Yeah.
couldn't you couldn't just listen the native speakers all the time and try to copy their style, the essence. You can't do that. You need to really speak with the native very often, so you can get the advantage. And also about the culture. Culture is also very important. Native speakers, they speak like a native. It's not because they learn English earlier than us, because they are in a culture. There are a lot of short terms, there are a lot of phrases. They know the meaning, but non-native speakers don't know the meaning.
Mm.
Mm. They know how to use the words. They know how to describe the thing properly using a very simple uh sentence, using a simple phrase. Mm. Uh, and non-native speakers couldn't learn those things without really speak with the natives. Mm.
Yeah.
So, in my humble opinion, yeah, although I'm not very sure, if you spend another 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, even 15 years or 20 years, uh, on the directions uh we are on, we are
Mm.
currently doing, you still can become a native speakers. And then after at that time, maybe you rationalize yourself and you change your expectations. Yeah, because you couldn't deny your English ability improve. This is something that you couldn't deny, but you need to change your expectation. Otherwise, you will experience uh, in unhappiness in
Mm.
this on this particular area.
Yeah.
Yeah, try to think about it. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
because you also can see the bottleneck, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so anything you want to add in?
No.
Okay, so that's all for today's conversations. How do you feel? Did you enjoy the conversations? Please tell us what you think about conversation. And we are not native speakers. If you found any vocabulary mistake that we made, please also comment to let us know. Because we want to learn more and improve ourselves. Remember to like subscribe to us Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.